Okay, guys, I know it had been a while since this happened, but I just had to show this to you before we pick up where we left off last time, because this was just the absolute craziest thing, and I can only produce videos as quickly as it goes. So, at the beginning of September, Efteling had announced that a very limited duo of souvenirs of Spookslot, a book and a pin, would be sold in the park itself. And only in the park itself, in one store. This is important. Have a wild guess what happened the very first day of release. This queue you're seeing, this one right here, are people standing in line to get their hands on these souvenirs. Little context here, let me get the map of the Efteling for you, just a little second. Here we go. This over here is where Spookslot used to be. Yes, it's as of now closed, rest in peace. The line of waiting people reached the entrance and beyond. Gotta say, questionable move from the Efteling. Why not open a web shop for the souvenirs or anything? Oh wait, that's exactly what they did. After the first 2 hours of sold out souvenirs. Boy, do I not envy the people that had been waiting in line for jack shit. Okay, I don't have a real transition right now to move on where our last video ended, so let's just pick that up. Make sure to watch that first video, of course. Now, where were we? Last time we talked about our introduction to the Doctor, and we move on to a large corridor that is filled with gigantic books, opened up and facing us from the left. They serve as frames for dioramas that showcase 3 different characters from Spookslot. Over here we have our good friend the Eastern Spirit. For this we can reuse the original statue. I mean, why not? It still looks gorgeous and can easily be reused. Maybe a little cleanup here. In the middle we have the monks, and to the right we have the 3 judges. Here they can be displayed as demonic creatures trying to crawl out of the book frame. The buggies enter a small part of a village. Villagers are standing everywhere, talking and gossiping. Some of them talk directly to us, mostly about the black dog they keep seeing roaming in the forest and village. They look nervous, scared and on edge. They don't necessarily move all that much, but their entire body language and posture tells you they do not want to deal with this. This is where I want to play around with the dialogue. I would love to have the villagers say things like: hij rijdt je open als hij je ziet, eet het vlees van je botten. Volg die hond niet, hij trekt je mee naar de diepste putten in de hel. Het is de duivel hemzelf, zeg ik je. Waar hij loopt, sterft de grond en zullen de doden kruipen. I am not a voice actor. I'm an artist. Boo, you stink! As we leave the village with these lovely thoughts, we pass through a dark forest that is crawling with dead trees. It's a long tunnel-like room and everywhere branches are bending over, relatively close to our buggies. Rags and webs are hanging everywhere like this is a thick forest, almost hard to push through. The ground is littered with coffins and the roots of the trees seem to pierce them here and there, almost as if the trees are feasting on the dead. Look, the ride is a family ride, of course, most of them above all. But I do want to see how far I can push certain things. This is after all still a spooky ride, and children are going to get scared nevertheless. The original Spookslot did this too. It had things like a corpse tied up to a bell rope, ugly demons, burning witches and much more. Nowadays it's easy cake, but back in the day this truly genuinely scared some children and adults too. So how far can we go? Maybe put some corpses in there as well. We move out of the coffin tunnel and enter the second part of the forest, which is layered with tombstones and graves. The space is a bit more open and less claustrophobic as the tunnel before, but still dark and gloomy, foreboding, all the stuff. The tombstones move on the rhythm of the orchestral music that is playing. And this time the trees move as well. Think of branches swinging slowly, trunks twisting and bending, something like that. In between the background trees, the keen eyes can spot the dog walking. After the forest, we come across another part of the village. This time we meet filthy buildings, rocks and a cathedral directly facing us. The dog is waiting for us, and on the wall next to the cathedral, demon-like creatures are crawling. Similar to the ones we saw in the pre-show of Spookslot, the ones in the ceiling. Behind the windows we can see a familiar character. It's the corpse, the one hanging on the bell rope. Now in the original Spookslot, this used to be the gardener that ratted out a witch to the Duke of Kaatsheuvel. Here though, he could be anyone. The bell ringer himself for all we know. But he shares the same poor fate, and even in death still rings the bells. We have to keep in mind that Spookslot had no story when it opened in 1978. It was only in the year after that Efteling came up with the story that is told in the Q&A area, because people seemed a bit lost by all the random scenes, happenings and characters. They really had no connection with each other at first, and this afterthought did result in me wondering sometimes how some characters fit in. Like the Eastern Spirit. Actually, mostly the Eastern Spirit. In Danse Macabre, it's a bit the same concept. The scenes themselves don't connect to each other story-wise. The only thing relating them is they are dark tales from the author. Now, with the dog, I want to do something cool here. What about the transformation scene? That's always a hit. As the Doom buggies pass the dog, he changes shape from dog to human and back to dog on loop. This effect, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not completely sure how to pull it off. Pepper Ghost effect would be the easy answer, but for that to work convincingly, the placement of the animatronics has to be perfect. Disney already has beautiful examples of transforming animatronics, like the Beast changing to Prince and a skeleton changing into Jack Sparrow in the Shanghai Pirates of the Caribbean. So this is definitely possible, but we need actual people in the field to work this out, instead of a simple artist like me. I'm just here for the idea. We arrive at the grand finale, the pièce de résistance, the ghostly theater, an orchestra of ghosts playing Danse Macabre in all its glory. This is easily the biggest setting of all, with chandeliers swinging slowly, statues moving and ghosts singing. At first I thought to do the ghosts with the Pepper Ghost effect, but afterwards I rather have them physically there, with some beautiful gloomy paintwork and lightning effect on them. Like what they do with the Wailing Man I talked about earlier. One of the ghosts plays a violin, and a little gimmick of mine is that he ever so often walks a few steps towards the guests, completely flowing into the moment. But he gets put back right in place by another musician. For the content of the orchestra itself, this is just a placeholder I created. We have to look up what kind of instruments and musicians the suite of Danse Macabre truly requires. The last scene we have is the audience witnessing the show. They are standing up in applause, and of course the dog gives us a last greeting before saying goodbye. And here we are. Whew, that was a way bigger project than I initially thought. I started it and I just went nuts with it. My hands hurt. So, little recap here of everything. We have here the guest building exterior. Inside we got the first part of the waiting queue here and the second part here. After that we enter the loading area, the main center of the library. Boarding the buggies, we start our journey off with the doctor's office as he welcomes us. Then we enter the Hall of Books, showcased with dioramas and animatronics. Then we arrive at the village and we are getting warned by the villagers. We move ourselves to the coffin corridor filled with corpse feasting trees. The second part of the woods is where the dancing graves reside. After that we arrive at the cathedral with the crawling creatures and the hanging corpse. The doctor greets us. Then we enter the ghostly theater, and lastly we roam through the audience clapping as we return to the loading area. Thank you guys for following this journey with me. The last video was a blast and I think came out the right time, and this one is a little bit late, but you know, all the damn artwork I had to complete for this. The fuzz around Spookslot seems to dial down now after the souvenir chaos. But now we all are following Spookslot as it's getting dismantled. Efteling keeps us informed regularly about the state of the site where Spookslot used to be. The props are all really well taken care of and are saved in the archives. I will miss Spookslot, I really will. But memories last, and at the end of the day it's just a theme park ride. There are worse things in the world, honestly. Hopefully I will see you guys back in the next, and stay tuned.